Hey there guys, TC Babe with TC Gaming. Wanted to bring you part two of the videos where we're talking about gameplay tags. I had mentioned in the video that we're going to do today, we're going to talk about how to add and remove points from a skill within our skill system. So we're going to go ahead and get into that, but real quick, I'm just going to do a fast recap. We're using gameplay tags in a structure so that we can add additional things to carry along with that gameplay tag. In this case, we're just using skill points. You could tack other things on there too. You could tack in there max levels, current levels, whatever you want to do. But this is just a very basic primer into this whole idea. I'm using gameplay tags in my system for I'm going to use it to track different things and tag them. So in the previous video, what we did is we created let's go back out here real quick. We created a gameplay stuff folder. We created a gameplay tag table, which had some basic tags in it for blacksmithing, mining, and smelting. We went through and made sure that that was loaded up into our project under gameplay tags, that array containers flagged right here. And then from that, we were able to use it to pick different skills in our system. We built an array of a structure called skill list, which is basically the skill name and the skill points, the gameplay tag for the variable skill name, and then a float for skill points. And by bringing that into our system, we're able to put this into a component, which is called skill system. The skill system component is on our trade skill character and carries all the information for whatever different things we're adding or removing to our character over here. So in the last video, we built a thing to just check to see if we had a skill. And in this case, we were looking for blacksmithing, and whatever the current value of blacksmithing was is turned. So if I run this real quick and I just hit the C key, again, we saw that we had a current skill of 25. And the reason that that skill of 25 is there is because on our trade skill character, skill system component, blacksmithing has a skill point value of 25 here. In this video, what we're going to do is we're going to build something to add or remove, or in the case of what I'm going to call it, is to modify this skill point value for whatever skill we pass to it. And we're building this in a generic way so that later on we can add additional tags to our system and add and remove values from those using a very broad brush kind of thing to say, I'm going to provide a skill thing to you. You go look it up and do what you have to do with it. If the character doesn't have it, you could add it. If they have it, you can increment the values or decrement them, however you see. So let's go ahead and go back into our skill system component. And we're going to build another function in here. This function was called check skill. We're going to build a new function in here, and this is going to be called modify skill. And in our modify skill structure, we're going to go ahead and I usually put in a add return node. So we'll do that, add return node. And then what we want to do is we want to have a skill that gets modified. And so we want to pass an input value to that. And this parameter here is going to be called skill name. And the skill name is going to be of type tag. Sorry, I'm going to put in gameplay tag because there are other types of tags. So gameplay tag. I'm going to pass that in. And in addition to that, we're going to go ahead and put another variable in here for skill points. And I'm sorry, I'm not going to call this skill name. We're going to call this skill to modify. Sorry. We already have some skill name stuff. So skill points, and then this is going to be of type float because we're passing in potentially partial values. This gives you a much broader range for your system. Although numbers, theoretically could be infinite in your system, you probably want to do something where you go from 0 to 100, and you could go in there by, 0.5, 0.6, 0.7, or you could go 1, 2, 3, 1.5, 2.6. You could go in there and have different modifiers as you go along. Now, we're going to pass in the skill to modify and the skill points, and then we're going to return back out of there, but we're not going to, I don't think we need to return any information. So what are we looking for here? Well, we need to get our skill list variable in here. We're going to get the skill as an array. And then from this, we want to do a for each loop. And for each of the objects that we find in our array, we're going to loop through there and find the one that matches our skill to modify. And if those values match each other, then we're going to go ahead and update the value that's in the array and in the skill points that we provided here and pass that back out to the system and update it. So in order for us to do that, we'll probably want to go ahead and split the struct pin so we can see the other elements under this. And if you're having trouble with this video, make sure you go back and watch the first one because I cover all of these types of techniques in greater detail. And this is just a carry on from that. Okay, now that we have that split, what we want to do is we want to go and loop through this. And we're going to say if the skill that I want to modify is equal to the current skill that I'm at in the array, if that's true, then we can go ahead and run a branch up here and tell that branch that we met our condition. And then at that point, what we want to do is we want to set an array element. We're going to say set array element. And the element that we want to set is coming from this target array. And we want to set the index based on the index that we're currently on here from the same array. And we want to set in this item here, we want to split the struct pin. And the skill that we are going to modify, again, comes from this skill to modify name. And the thing that we want to do with the points is we want to take our current points and say plus. So we're going to add. And we're going to add that value to whatever's in the array that we have currently found for our skill. Points there, and then we're going to pass that value into item skill points and return out of the node, and then just connect these pins. Everything gets fired next. So let me explain this to you again real quick, because again I move a little fast through these things, and I'm trying to make this so that you can see these wires a little bit easier, but again it's kind of complex. So just move this up here and move this over here. Sec, kind of see if we can spread this out a little bit so it's easy to trace. So, okay, so I'm going to pass in a skill to modify. That skill to modify is going to be compared right here to the skill that I'm currently on in the array as I loop through each one. I could probably clean this up a little bit. I could have put the skill name up top here and skill to modify there. So the current array loop that I'm in gets evaluated and compared to the skill I'm asking for. If these two things match each other, then the condition is true. And once it's true, I take the index of the array that I'm on from the array that I'm looking at and tell it that I want to basically add my skill points to the skill points that are in the system here. So this way I can say I want to add 20 points, 30 points, 1.7 points. I want to subtract or add a negative 1.5 points to reduce a skill. So in the other systems that I've played in the past, if you start getting more points in a certain thing, you keep going up, of course, but other skills may have to suffer because you're not spending as much time using them anymore, and you only have so many points to spread across all your different skill systems. So, now what we can do is go back to our trade skill character. I think I compiled that, didn't I? Sure. Yeah, this is compiled and good to go. And it's called modify skill. So back on our trade skill character, let's put in something to make a modification to our blacksmithing skill. So on this one here, we're going to do keyboard M. Oop. That way. Fine. We're just going to use the M key because we're modifying something. And what we want to do is we want to come off of our skill system component. And again, if you don't know what functions are available in your component, even though you're the one building it, but let's say you're working with somebody else's component, typically your functions are things that you call. So if you type in call, it'll show you the different functions available. In this case, we want to call the modify skill. And when we press the M key, we're going to modify our skill, and it's asking us for supplying the input of what skill we want to modify. We're going to modify blacksmithing, and we're going to give a number of skill points here. So let's do increments of 15. Now, these are variables that can be supplied from other things. So again, if I am holding an item, I could have a tag on the item that says this is a blacksmithing weapon. And I could have a thing that says, take whatever it is I'm using, look up and find out, or go find the skill that's associated with that in my skill array. And then every time I use a blacksmithing item, I could have a percentage chance to gain skill points in blacksmithing of whatever level the thing that I'm doing provides. In this case here, I'm just doing it manually, but in a system, you would just take the item and say, every time I use this, I have a 10% chance of adding 1 point to my skills, for example. Let's say I'm mining ore, and every time I successfully mine ore, I could roll that check to find out if I've increased my skill. So that's how that would work. And this is just going to be to pass in here. Now, once we get this, we could do our same thing like we did over here, where we could just say whatever our current blacksmithing skill level is, or whatever. For our input string, but I don't have to do that because all I have to do is modify this, and then I can just use this to check it again. So I'm just going to leave it like that, and let's go run this. Let's hit F11 so you can see it. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to hit the C key to check it. See, I've got 25. I'm hitting this multiple times so we can keep it on the screen for a sec. I've got 25 points of mining, and now I'm going to hit the M key one time and modify it. Now I have 40. I'm going to hit the M key again and modify it. Now I have 55. Hit the M key again and modify it. Now I've got 70. So I'm incrementing it by 15 points on each cycle there. Now what I'm going to do is just show you what I talked about earlier. If I were to make this a negative value, let's call it -5, for example. I can pass in a negative value to this, and I can decrement that value. So I go back to trade skill character out here in the world. And again, I check it, and it's currently at 25 because that's what it set out on our component when we initialize the character. I'm going to hit M once to modify it. Now I'm down to 20. Modify it again, I'm down to 15. Modify it again, I'm down to 10. Modify it again, I'm down to 5. I'm at 0. I'm at -5, -10, so on and so forth. So you can do this, to set positive and negative values with one system, which makes everything pretty clean. So I'm going to, again, stop this video right here. Now we've got a piece that modifies a current skill on our system. And then what we're going to do in the next video is we're going to make something to add a new skill to our character. And what I talked about before is you might have a thing where maybe in my system, I'm going to say, if you go pick up a blacksmithing hammer, you've never done blacksmithing, you've never been trained, you theoretically could pick up a blacksmith hammer and some ingots or metal or whatever and try to shape them into some, crude weapon or what have you. And you won't have a very, beautiful product, and it's not maybe as durable as one that's made by an actual blacksmith or whatever, but theoretically you could, hack and slash your way through modifying or making a weapon rudimentary or crude. So I could say, even though you don't have a blacksmithing skill, or you have a blacksmithing skill of a very low level, you're attempting to blacksmith, so I'm going to give you points in blacksmithing. And over time, if you continued to work that thing, you would become a self-taught blacksmith, and your quality of things could improve. And we could do that in a system where you just have an organic way of becoming, the thing that you want to be. Some skills may have to be taught, but other skills could certainly be learned just by, experimenting in the world. So again, my name's TC Made with TC Gaming. I'm going to keep this video kind of short and sweet, modifying skills, and the next video is going to be about adding a new skill to our system. And then what we're going to do is go back and show all the way from the beginning how I can add additional tags into my tag library, have them available to the components, and add the new skills and modify their values and everything, because the system is built in such a generic way that it's so flexible for us. All we would have to do is update the tag container and make everything available to the new to the new items or whatever that we place in the world. And theoretically, it should be the characters and the system doesn't have to have any knowledge whatsoever of what things are available in the library. It just says, what am I currently messing with, or what's available to me on my character, and have a system to manage it. So hopefully these videos are helping you out. Again, please try and leave some comments or some feedback just to let me know if you're interested in these types of things, or maybe we head in a different direction. But I'm just trying to share you guys, some of my experiences with what I'm working on. Gameplay tagging system for these micro RPGs I'm going to be putting out sometime in the future. And thanks again for watching. Like, follow, and subscribe for more, and I'll catch you guys in a future video. Take care.